Oh, no. The Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 11:44. Our next case is Mr. Nathaniel Kelly. Mr. Kelly, would you give us your full name and DOC number, please?
Sir, my name is Nathaniel L Kelly. My DOC number is 597-279.
Mr. Kelly, let me explain our procedure to you. I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we're going to do a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we're going to allow those persons who wish to have input to speak. Speaking on your behalf today is your mother, Miss Joyce Frith. Speaking in opposition is Mr. John Kersey, Miss Samantha Kersey, Miss Kimberly Kursky, and also here but not speaking is Patricia Kursky. Afterwards, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board, and then we'll vote. You understand our process?
Sure.
This is the matter of Nathaniel L Kelly, DOC number 509-7279. Mr. Kelly's date of birth is May 15th of 1978. He's a first-time felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of January the 17th of 2024. He is not eligible for good time, and he has a full-term date of August the 6th of 2026. He is currently serving a 17-year sentence on the charge of forcible rape, having been sentenced on April the 16th of 2012. Mr. Kelly, is all of that information accurate and correct?
Sir.
Mr. Kelly, how old are you, sir?
I am 45.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
14 years.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background, Mr. Kelly. How far did you go in school?
I dropped out and then I got my GED whenever when I became an adult. Then later on, after I got incarcerated, I continued my education, and I have a bachelor's and an associate's degree through Ashland University. And I also do a tutoring program for the school here at RLPC.
Okay. What kind of work did you do before you came to prison?
I done tree line work. I trimmed the trees away from the power line for the power company.
Drugs or alcohol ever been an issue with you?
Yes, sir.
What or both?
It's always just the drugs. It was never alcohol.
When did you first start using drugs?
The first time I used drugs was during this crime that I've committed.
Okay, well, what time were we talking about? How old were you when you first started using drugs?
31.
And what kind of drugs did you start using?
Was Xanax and ecstasy.
And how often were you using Xanax and ecstasy?
Just one time.
So just once.
Yes, sir.
And what caused you to use drugs on that particular time?
I was with my ex-wife. We were having a party and everything, just hanging out, and she had some, so I tried it.
Is this the only time you ever used drugs?
The only time I've ever used drugs. But I do have a drug problem because of the fact I tried it. I ended up offending or victimizing my victim.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second, okay? So let's talk about these allegations. Let's talk about what happened here. So tell me what happened here. Where were you at the time this happened?
I was in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Okay, and who were you staying with at the time?
I was staying in a motel.
Okay, so what happened? Tell me how this came about.
Right? My ex-wife is very good friends with the victim's family. The victims, they used to play with my kids because they were all around the same age.
Now, your ex-wife is Miss Self, Christine Self.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so go ahead and continue.
She lived in Shreveport with her mother.
Okay,
Victim stayed with Miss Self. They sent my son and my daughter an invitation for a birthday party, May the 28th of 2008. Instead of driving up for the party and then coming back, I grabbed a hotel room, dropped my kids off with Miss Self and her mother, and Miss Paige and Miss Sam while they were staying there. Later on that night, me and Christy, Miss Self, we decided we were going to go to the casino. Went out to the casino, went to a couple of bars and everything. I don't drink, so I was a designated driver. As we were at the casino where the hotel was, we ended up getting a hold of some Xanax and some ecstasy and took it. Next thing I remember, wake up the next morning, my two victims are laying next to me in the bed. I'm laying there in my underwear.
so what happened? You don't remember anything that happened?
So nothing else was said about that until almost a year later, whenever the Freeport Caddo Parish Sheriff Department contacted me, asked me if I would come and talk to him. I said, yes, I have no problem. I asked what it was about. He said it was an ongoing investigation. I drove to the courthouse in Monroe. That is where he proceeded to tell me that I sexually assaulted Miss Paige and Miss Sam. I asked, when did it happen? They couldn't tell me exactly when it happened, so they went with my indictment reads from May of 2008 to somewhere in October of 2008, this crime happened. The only time I was around them was that one particular night whenever I woke up.
Mr. Kelly, are you telling me that nothing happened?
No, I'm not saying that. No, sir.
You tell me then what happened? What did you do?
That I can't tell you, sir, but what I can say is that I know something had to have happened.
Well, you gave several stories to the police about what happened. Now, come on. You're telling me, oh, I took some ecstasy and I took some pills for the first time in my life, and all of a sudden I end up molesting two young girls very seriously, giving them a disease. And there are allegations in your police report and in your entire file that this is not the first time that you've done something like this. Now, you're going to tell me you don't remember? You gave the police two separate stories about how you were changing one of them because she had messed on herself and you happened to slip your finger in her behind. I mean, what do you mean you don't remember? You don't know? This is your time to come clean. If you expect me to vote to let you out, you better damn well be honest and truthful today. Now, if your story is that's it, facts, that's the way it is, then okay. But if you want to be more honest with me, I'm willing to listen.
The incident that you were referring to about the several stories about the changing the diaper and everything, that was a previous allegation. That was not with my victim. Now, that was get thrown out of court because of the fact, I'm not thrown out of court, I apologize. That was not even brought up to me until this investigation. I was never questioned about that until this investigation came about. Now, I did say that, yes, because at the time, he was telling my detective was telling me that this happened at a certain time. That at that previous allegation, that girl and her mother did live with me. However, the investigation was dropped for the simple fact because they done a physical exam on the female, and they come to find out that she had not been touched. But the fact that I have the previous allegation and then this right here, coming up with the Miss Kursky children, I went on ahead and I told him, okay, well, what are they saying? What happened? He tells me that they didn't know when it happened, where it happened, or how it happened, but that I walked up behind one of them, pulled their pants down, and stuck my penis in their butt. Then I turned around, walked away from that one, from one of them, and went to the other one and done the same thing. There was no DNA evidence, and it was a one-time thing. The report says that I didn't say nothing to them whenever they were talking to Costa or wherever they went, and they for over a year they never said nothing to anyone. So after hearing the story and seeing the videos while I was locked up in Shreveport, I seen how my actions of what happened hurt kids. It hurt not only the kids but their family, my family also. I turned around. I ended up doing jail time for almost 4 years. They were back and forth with continuances. I ended up telling my lawyer that I want to change my plea from innocent to guilty. He asked why. I said, because what happened should never have happened, and they should not have to live through that again by going through the court system and having to testify in front of more people. So I changed my plea right there from the rape, from not guilty to guilty.
And they reduced the charges to something that you pled to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, they did.
And in spite of the fact that the police reports suggest that there is evidence or there's testimony that you've done this in the past, you say that's all a lie.
The one with the allegation, there was no finding.
I'm asking you right now because your ex-wife says you did do something, and it's in the police reports and it's in your file. You're saying none of that happened.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I have 2 previous allegations. The one my
Did you do anything previously?
No.
So that's what I'm saying. You denied anything other than this one time that you now say you don't remember doing because you were on drugs. Is that what I'm hearing?
So that is not what you're hearing. My very first incident of my allegation was with my daughter. She went to school and said that she touched me in my private area and was not supposed to tell anyone. The school took it and flipped it around to make it seem like she was being sexually assaulted. CPS got involved in it. They recommended that my daughter be removed from the house. I could be around her as long as I wasn't around her by myself. Me and my daughter have a very strong relationship. That did not happen the way that they put it. I did not go to prison for that. I did not go to jail. I did get questioned. I gave my statement about it.
My question to you is, you deny doing anything with your daughter inappropriate.
Inappropriate, yes, sir.
All right, okay. You took sex offender treatment?
Yes, sir. I've had all
Tell me what you learned in sex offender treatment.
Well, the first thing I learned is that I learned the 27 risk factors. And then sitting back while I was going through the program, I realized that out of the 27, 10 of them actually applied to me before my incarceration. I got into drugs.
What were some of those 10 factors?
I tried drugs, shouldn't have done that. I was under a mind-altering substance, shouldn't have done that. I put myself in a situation to where I could victimize somebody, and that's another thing that I shouldn't have done. Grooming, that's another risk factor in there. These 2 children, Sam and Paige, I knew before the incident happened. All right. So if that's the case, part of the sex offender treatment is you're grooming someone to victimize. I'm sure I didn't just attack them. I'm sure
Well,
that I said,
in looking back, how did you groom these two young women to do what you did?
because I befriended them.
Well,
Anytime
you know, people befriend people all the time. That doesn't mean they're grooming them to have sex with young children.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. But at the same time, going through the risk factors and everything, I see that befriending underage children while I'm sitting there and playing with my kids and the Kirsty children and bringing food to them and giving them candy and stuff. Maybe that led up to what happened. I can't explain that, but there are 27 risk
What
factors.
risk factors apply to you?
Manipulation. I will be honest with you about that manipulation because
How did you manipulate? Tell me how that applies specifically to you.
I took what they had trust in me. These are two kids that grew up or were growing up with my kids. They trusted. I manipulated them by breaking that trust, by going past that barrier line. That is how I manipulated. I let them believe that they could trust me and that everything is okay. And then I turned around and I hurt them.
Well, I thought we blaming all this on drugs.
No, I'm not blaming it all on drugs. I'm blaming it all on myself. I'm the one who made the choice to take the drug. I'm the one who
No, I hear you. But what you're saying is the reason you did this is because you were on drugs. Doesn't matter who gave you the drugs, whether it was your choice or not. Your position and what I'm hearing you say to me today is the only reason I did this is because I took some drugs and I went in there and did some illegal acts with these two young girls. Am I right or am I wrong? I mean, I'm hearing you say, you know, I don't remember doing anything because I was on drugs, but I must have done something because I was on drugs. And now you got all of these risk factors that all apply to you: grooming, manipulation, which are all true.
The reason why I do give part of the blame to drugs is because I've been around the Kirsty children without doing any drug and have never, ever harmed them, ever. This one particular time I get on drugs, I wake up, they're in the bed with me. So yes, I do blame it on drugs, but I take full responsibility for taking those drugs.
I hear that. What other risk factors applied to you that you learned in sex offender treatment?
Or impulse control. If you would like to have me to elaborate on that, poor impulse control, because of the fact I was with my ex-wife. I know it's wrong to do drugs, but did I do them? Yes, I did. I don't even do drugs. I didn't even want her drinking around my kids whenever she lived with me. So why would I go off and do drugs? But I did. So yes, I had a poor impulse control. I wanted to get messed up with my ex-wife. Get messed up with my ex-wife, and this happened. Why it happened, I cannot explain. Did it happen? Yes, it did. Do I hold myself responsible? Every single day for the last 14 years and 1 day. I place the blame on nobody but myself.
Now, one of the young girls contracted a sexually transmitted disease that you also had. Is that true?
That cannot be proven. The reason why I say it cannot be proven, when I was in Caddo, I asked to be seen about it. The DA had the DA and the one that contracted the sexually transmitted disease, they said cannot be tested in male, first of all. Second of all, if you have the complete report, you will read that one of the girls' mother testified that she had the disease before she ever gave birth to
I'm
any of
asking
her.
about you, sir. Did you have a sexually transmitted disease?
I can neither confirm nor deny that because they say that the particular herpes virus that these children have cannot be detected in males.
Did you have a sexually transmitted disease?
No,
You've never had one.
I mean, I've had chlamydia, but it's not during this. It's back in my teen years. I've never had an outbreak of herpes.
What do you think your actions have done to the victims in this case?
Devastated. I know it's devastating. It's devastated them, not just the victim, but the co-victim, the family, their mother, their father, their stepmother, their brother, their kinfolk, their psychological, their mental. I mean, destroys a lot of people were destroyed. My actions, I threw a pebble in a pond, and the ripple effect is still going on to this day.
And you ended up pleading guilty to 2 counts of forcible rape
Yes, sir, I
for a
did.
17-year sentence.
Yes, sir, I did.
You were about to go to trial for aggravated rape, which carried life in prison.
Yes, sir, it does.
Gordon, what can you tell us about Mr. Kelly?
Well, Mr. Marabella know me very well. So I would really like to hear the victim speak before I give my opinion, but I guess
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you
You want
said.
to hear the victim speak when you.
Okay, good. Thank you, sir.
I normally don't
Okay.
ask. Can I hear the victims? Can I hear the victim speak before I give my
Sure,
Yes, sir.
sure,
Yes, sir.
sure, yes. Let's hear from your mother right now, Miss Fred, Miss Joyce Fred. Good afternoon, ma'am. We can't hear
Good
you.
afternoon. Yes, sir. Here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am. Sorry.
If you'd introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know about your son.
My name is Joyce Frith. I live in West Monroe. Um, Nathaniel is my son. We're very close. We're always very close. Definitely this was a shock to us all, of course. He was out on his own, had his own place, had the kids, except for Anna, and I had Anna. When she was removed from his home, and then we took Anna, and we raised Anna. And then after that happened with Sean, we had both of the children, Dylan and Anna, and we raised both of those children. Dylan is now 25, and Anna is 22, I believe. But as far
We've lost you, ma'am. We've lost your voice.
he worker, he always worked. I never had a problem with him working. Never had a problem with him, supporting the kids, whatever they needed, whatever they wanted. He was, all I had to do was call and ask. He was not a lazy person by any means. He worked, and all of his work was a physical type laborer type job. I've supported him all these years, through this. Stood by him and supported him. Tried to be there for him and tried to go see him as much as we could. Anna could not see him, of course, until she got to be 18. Then she could, we could take her to go see him then. So it's been, I understand, that it's very extremely difficult. I cannot put myself in the other person's place because I've not been there. But I'm very sorry that happened. Yes, very sorry.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate your comments. Now we'll
Thank you,
hear from the opposition. Let's hear from Miss Samantha DOC.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Kurtzy, would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know?
My name is Samantha Kirksey. Throughout my life since that incident has happened, I have grown to not trust men other than my own father. I have my own kid as well. I don't trust no one around her at all. I have had some PTSD, some anxiety, some anger issues. And it all led from that occurrence.
Thank you, ma'am. Is that your dad with you?
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Kirksey?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What would you like to tell us?
The time of the incident, my children had went and stayed like the entire summer. And
We're having trouble hearing you, Mr. Kirksey.
during the time of the incident, my children were living in Shreveport with Christian.
It's
Okay. They were living with Christy Self. We were transitioning from moving from one town to another, me and my second wife. And then when they moved back home, that's when we found out everything. And during the whole process, I worked for the sheriff's office, and I found out there was other allegations, not only, my children, but his also, plus ex-girlfriends that had actually filed a claim. And then she put out a restraining order against him, and then she dropped it and moved states. And from the information I was given, he had threatened her and her kid and everything. And that's why they moved and disappeared. But this, to me, everything that I've looked into, this was not the first go around. Wasn't the first time this has happened. It's been devastating to watch my children have to deal with something like this.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we'll hear from Ms. Kimberly Kirksey.
Okay, yes.
Ms. Kirksey, if you'll introduce yourself and tell us what you would like us to know.
My name is Paige. And with all of this, even when it's happened, it still haunts me to this day. I don't trust in men anymore. I have really bad depression and anxiety and PTSD and all of that. And it's like the memory is still there. And it's really hard. And I don't know. This whole situation has been really hard, and all of this coming up came to a shock, and it was really hard, but I'm here now and I'm standing my ground and just letting y'all know that this is not easy.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate your comments. Gordon?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So I'm sure you notice the same things that I notice. When you ask Nathaniel anything, the first thing, instead admitting or denying. He says it can't be proven. Things of that nature, those kind of answers. Can't be proven, and never was validated. Not that he didn't do them or not that he has remorse for them. It's very disappointing to me because he and I had a long conversation yesterday, and I told him not to lie to me. Same thing I tell every other inmate whenever I interview him and I have conversations with him about these boards and these hearings. And the first thing he did when he sat down to me this morning was he told me he lied to me yesterday, which I already knew he did. But he lied to you as well when he said it was the first time he'd ever done ecstasy or done it, because he told me different yesterday, because I have right here in my notes that I recommend substance abuse treatment for him, because we had a long talk about the numerous times that he used ecstasy and alcohol, and I wanted him to get treatment. So it's very concerning to me for a convicted sex offender to not take ownership at all for his crime, not show the proper remorse that he needs to show. And to the victims, let me end my sincere regrets and sympathies for what happened to you, because I have no doubt what you say happened to you happened to you. Again, as we always talk about, it's my job to help these guys reform their lives and get out and stay out and ensure these things never happen again. And Nathaniel's a decent offender. He's a tutor for me. He does a good job of that. He helps others. But my concern has to be for the general public, has to be for children again. And I think you know where I'm going with my recommendation on this. And y'all know me very well. This is not something that I normally am as frustrated with it about as I am today, but I'm very disappointed in Nathaniel and the way he's reacted to this. And his ownership is not there. Till he gets that, it concerns me that he will reoffend. So I do recommend the substance abuse treatment. He does need that. I recommend he's in nurturing parenting. I recommend that he completes that. But my recommendation today is not a positive.
Gordon, thank you very much for your very honest comments. Mr. Kelly, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
He said no, sir.
All right. Board ready to vote? Yes. Mr. Kelly, it is very disappointing that you weren't forthcoming and not honest with us. As the warden points out, they can't prove this, they can't prove that. You pled guilty to these two charges. You were charged with two extremely serious charges, aggravated rape, and you pled guilty. And Mr. Kirksey indicated in our reports and what we've seen is he did that. He agreed to that sentence so his daughters wouldn't have to go through a trial and have to relive what happened. And then today, for them to sit here and watch you say, nobody proved anything. And you talked about all of these triggers that you had. And you're right, you had them all. But you were alleging it's all about because you shouldn't have took drugs. You are a textbook sex offender. And until you accept that and understand that, you're never going to be safe. The community is never going to be safe around you. Based upon law enforcement opposition, victim opposition, your lack of candor, my vote today would be to deny your parole. Ms. Wise?
All right, Mr. Kelly. First of all, to the victim's family, I appreciate the courage that it took for you all to participate today in this hearing. As Paige said, you are standing your ground, and you are doing a lot better than you realize. Because you're here today, you're doing a lot better than you realize. I concur with my colleague. My vote is denied for the reasons already been stated on the record. You do have law enforcement opposition as well. The age of the victims, the impact of the crime on the victims. Those are my main reasons for denying. That is my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
I concur with what my colleagues said. Once again, I want to thank the victims. Be strong, hang in there. Don't let this man control your life. That's what he tried to do before. Don't let him do it. And you already received a plea bargain. You probably should have gotten a life sentence, in my opinion, so my vote is to deny.
Kelly, you've received 3 votes to deny your parole. It's recommended that you get substance abuse treatment, you take other programs, and you look internally to be able to admit to yourself what you really did. Because until you do that, you're going to be a danger. So good luck to you.
He will always be a danger. He always has been a danger. Thank you, Warden. I have a lot of respect for you, Warden. We have seen you a lot. We've seen many wardens, but for him to wait to hear the victim speak and then to call him out for what he was, for what he is. It's just, hard. I'm kind of just speechless. August 10th, 2009. That's when he was arrested. He was 31 years old at the time he was arrested. 31-year-old man, married with children. His bond was set at $500,000. That's appreciated. Those girls, ages 8 and 10. Eight and 10. What we saw here was a serial chomo, a serial cockroach, someone who has done it so many times through his entire life to his own children. There were so many stories and accusations of what he had done that it was confusing to even follow. He's talking about changing the diaper. What? A diaper? Of his own child. Can you imagine? I couldn't keep track of all the allegations. The father of the victim said that there's stories of him doing it to the children of his ex-girlfriend. And that they then had to run. They had charges, but they had dropped it and left the state because they were so afraid. He has a trail of victims, and I believe we have only just touched on it in this hearing, just a few of them. And he has the audacity to get up here and say, I have poor impulse control. My impulse problem is that I took ecstasy. What? He actually said that. And then I just woke up. I woke up in a bed, and I don't know, there was an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old sitting there. A whole year went by and nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, the sheriff came and and he goes down this gaslighting with Mr. Mirabella through these circles of just like, we just watched this one thing he said correctly in this hearing was saying he's a manipulator. And he'll get no credit for saying that either, because it was just part of his manipulation to say that. Then to explain the manipulation, it was Mr. Mirabella did a great job. Oh my gosh. All the judges, they said the right things. You know, I'm not a fan of when Miss Wise says you're doing better than you think, but it looked like the victims, it meant a lot to them when she said that. I'm not sure if the hearing could have been handled more perfectly. Really. The respect for the victims and the just announcing the fact that this cockroach is forever going to be a danger to society, and the acknowledgement of that. The only things that I think, the warden recommending the nurture and parenting program is ridiculous, because that cockroach cannot ever be near a child under any circumstance, even with supervision. So taking a parenting class, no. That just, I don't know. Maybe he just said it out of habit. I can't. I'm not going to get on the warden after him being a real champion, but that doesn't make any sense. Then to think that this roach is tutoring other roaches is just a mockery. You know what their tutor classes are probably like. Someone who's a master pedophile, the most ultimate pedophile, that it is the poster picture of a pedophile that he's teaching other pedophiles. It's insane. He comes up here in this hearing and says, I went to a casino, I took ecstasy. I woke up in the bed and there are two sitting there. I was in my underwear. What did I do? When the sheriff came, I just, I don't remember doing anything. There's no proof of me doing anything. Giving him the disease, and then why it's not even detectable in men, that herpes. It's not even I love that Mr. Marabella made him admit publicly. He's like, you're gonna play that game, you're gonna have to now admit publicly on YouTube that you have contracted something. I think that was, he had to make him admit it. And he's like, well, I had gonorrhea at one point. BS. You can't trust it. You can't prove anything. He goes on to talk about during this process, he confessed to the police about other victims. Like Mr. Marabella said, you are a textbook sex offender. The community will never be safe if you are free. And this is the scary part. He's going to be free soon. He got a 17-year sentence. He has his full-time date in 2026. We are in August 9th of 2023. He is getting out soon. And he is still, and what then? What then? It's not if, it's when. And it's not just when, it's how many. How many more victims is he going to have until he gets caught? Assuming he gets caught. You can't get on the father of the victims for him not wanting to put them through court. They were going to go to trial. I just can't comment on that. But I almost wish that a judge would have just said, no, we're taking this to trial. On that note, where the hell is the DA? Where's the assistant DA? Shame on you. You have victims here torn apart. Their families were torn apart. They're sitting in this hearing alone. Why can't you show up? Pathetic. You know, on that note, I would like to share with you something that Richard had sent me that has just it's what I wish that every judge would do when these type of cases come, because it It is the truth. And I have so much respect for John Stevens for doing this.
Like the new deal.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
I have a John Abrams. That you?
Yes.
22-40065 is now called. The state of Texas versus John Michael Abrams, who is present with his attorney, Mr. Dusler, and the state's attorney. Does the defendant waive a formal reading of the indictment and arraignment here?
Yes, sir.
Do we proceed in summary?
Yes, sir.
In summary, this indictment alleges that, are we just going on paragraph 1?
Yes, sir.
I was just confirming that, Judge. If
I
you
mean,
would, I think you need
This
to.
is the third time
Yes,
you've been
sir.
charged with this?
Yes, sir.
So what's our plan? I
Well,
mean, we got
We have an agreement for 10 years, Judge.
Yeah, but
He only
so
received on
let
those
me ask you
prior.
this,
Yes, sir.
what is he looking at if the whole indictment was pleaded to?
As it would be a second degree because,
You know,
hang on, Judge. It's a second degree based upon count 2. With count 3, you can make an argument that could make him look at habitual,
what,
but the case
why
law.
wouldn't there be certainty about it? I mean, what's the argument about? I mean, if the way it's pleaded, it's a habitual felon. 25 to life.
Yes, sir.
Well, for some, I know the people who put me in here, they don't really appreciate sex offenders who don't properly register.
I
I mean,
agree with you.
They don't stand for it.
I agree with your honor. And my agreement that's been offered to Mr. Dusler is 10 years in light of the fact that he only received a 2-year and a 3-year sentence previously. So it's incrementally more. It's not to the degree that your honor is suggesting, but that may be, I feel like 25 is going a little more than what is entire.
Well, the
Appropriate for this
legislature didn't think that. But he's
I don't
looking at
disagree.
life imprisonment, actually. It's a minimum 25.
Yes, sir.
Where was this original conviction? Out of Harris County?
Yes.
Sexual assault of a child. Anybody want to explain what the consistent problem is? I don't have a consistent problem with they get hit and understand that we're serious. You may not, but you're one of the few on the planet who don't seem to appreciate sex offenders have strict rules they must follow because they failed on the rules. Like you. But not only have you committed an underlying serious crime involving sexual assault of a child, but this is the 4th time at least you have been charged with a felony offense regarding sex offenders. All right. I don't begrudge the defense. Y'all doing the best you can, but can anybody explain to me, help me out, why any mercy should be shown under these circumstances?
If I may
We're
speak,
involved, keeping in mind a child was injured for the rest of their life.
I don't know the underlying offense originally because
says what it says.
it was way back in 2002.
Well, it's in the body of the
Yes,
charge.
it was in 2002 is when the offense originally happened.
Yeah, I'm looking at the,
What I,
no, the probable cause affidavit is in Harris County involving a 14-year-old child. Sexual assault of a child over a 14-year-old. So, there you
the,
go.
since then, what we're looking at are offenses of omission rather than commission. He was originally, the first one occurred just a few months after placing on probation in 2012. It looks like everything was done fine until 2016, some 4 years later, when we had another issue. It's now been 7 years since that. Granted, he's not doing exactly what he's supposed to do, but in view of the fact that he received 2 years
How old are you?
TDC.
How old are you?
46.
At this rate, we'll see him 4 or 5 more times before
Well,
his outdoor life.
I don't think
At
so.
this rate of consistent misbehavior.
Is the point is he got 2 years the first time, 3 the next time. This is, as Mr. Ham pointed out, incrementally a whole lot more than.
And how's that working?
Circumstance.
How's that deterring?
We're gonna find out after a 10-year sentence.
No, it should have stopped after the first one. I don't take that being. I think a juror in this county would be more appreciative of making the decision as to whether the minimum of 25 or up to life or appropriate under his consistent misbehavior of a case. And this court is not going to stand for being light on sex offenders, especially when you offend on a child. That is. Next is what? Tremaine Celestine. We'll set that for trial. Next, Tremaine.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. You see, what we saw here, one is a judge that said, what are you talking about? And then he says, you know what, as the defense attorney, I understand, but then he looks towards the assistant district attorney, or maybe even the district attorney, and he says, what's going on with this? And the district attorney starts defending the cockroach. And then you can't even make it up, but he says, well, I don't know what the charge was. The judge says, what do you mean? It's right here. Sexual assault of a child. It's in the affidavit, 14 years old. Then he says, well, he only had one after the probation, and then he only had another one a few years later, and then another one a few years later. It's not so bad. And then he says, well, how old are you? I mean, at this rate, we'll see you 4 or 5 more times. How do we know that we're not going to see him again? And the district attorney says, well, look, Judge, he was only sentenced 2 years and then 4 years, or 2 years and then 3 years. So, Judge, listen to me. He's getting a big jump. It's now 10 years. Considering he only got 2 and 3, 10 is great. I mean, it's a big jump. And the judge is like, what? Which we're all saying, what? How? This is the district attorney's logic, not the defense attorney. And then you cannot believe it, but he says, when the judge challenges him about it, well, how do you know that we won't see him again? He responds back, we'll find out in 10 years, won't we? You sick. You were just willing. You were just happy to have children just disposable. This is what you do to protect your community? We'll just see. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it, but that person is put in position, put in office to protect us. Let's wait and see. Sick. I'm gonna put this up on my other channel, but I I felt inclined. I've been having it sitting here for a few months and I haven't done it yet. And I'm sorry about the background noise. Everyone's home from school, camp. There's no camp actually. I can't. I got the lawnmower going, and I'm just infuriated. I can't. You can't make this up. You can't make any of it up. It's just sickening. And I needed to show it here on this channel. I just need to show that it can be stopped. A judge can step in and say, no, we're going to trial. Now, this is, I guess, a different situation. Maybe there's no victim. It's failure to register. I'm not sure. And I don't know what the right thing is. But if someone committed red rum, I'll just say it, someone committed murder, they wouldn't just take a plea deal. People get called to the stand. And I don't know, but at a certain, one might argue that it's something to consider because we need to protect the public. I don't know what the right answer is. I'm just, the idea that this cockroach, Nathaniel Kelly, will be getting out to harm again dozens or hundreds, thousands of times. And it's not even a ticking time bomb. It's just a bomb. And I don't know how the system is just going to allow it. It's truly, it's something where we just bury our heads in the sand. We just say, whatever. But it is what it is. I don't know why the plea deal was 17 years. He was facing life in prison. Why didn't you do a 40-year plea deal? I got the lawnmowers, I got the babies crying. It's a perfect combination.
To order, the time is 12:59. Our next case is Robyn Melancon. Mr. Melancon, would you give us your full name and DOC number?
Robyn Melancon, 720415.
Thank you, Mr. Melancon. Let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. I'm going to read some information into the record, then we're going to conduct a parole interview with you. And at the conclusion of that, you'll have an opportunity to say anything you'd like, then we'll vote. You understand our process? Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you understand our process?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is Robyn Melancon, DOC number 720415. Date of birth, January 23rd of 1981. First felony offender. Parole eligibility date was July the 3rd of 2019. Full term date was November the 4th of 2024. He is currently serving an 8-year sentence on a molestation of a juvenile charge. Is that information all correct, Mr. Melancon?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Melancon, your case was assigned to me, so I will begin the questioning. How old are you, Mr. Melancon?
42,
I'm sorry,
42,
43, okay? And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
sir.
How long have you been in prison on these charges?
6 years, 9 months.
Okay, 6 years, 9 months on an 8-year sentence?
Yes,
You had a hearing back in June of last year where we granted you conditionally upon your completing the substance abuse the sex offender treatment program. And it's my understanding that you weren't able to finish that entire program in the 9 months. Is that right?
I finished in the 9 months.
I'm sorry?
I finished in the 9 months.
Have you completed the sex offender treatment program?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And another condition was that you find an approved residence for you to be at. Have you been able to accomplish that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Since your last hearing, have you had any write-ups or any disciplinary issues?
No, sir.
Have you taken any other program besides the sex offender treatment program?
The Blue Water program, which I was at the last jail I was at, the Blue Water program.
No, I'm talking about since the last time you were before us, which was last June, a year ago. What have you done since your last hearing, since you've been here?
Took the sex offender treatment program.
Okay, and you've taken all four
All four.
phases of the sex offender treatment program?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's my understanding that when the 9 months expired, you hadn't completed the program. Am I wrong about that? Because I think that's why you came back today, is because you hadn't completed the program. Warden, can you help us out with that?
That's correct, Mr. Marabella. We fast tracked him, but he didn't get done in those. It's normally a two-year program,
Mhm.
but when he was sent to us, so he had to spend a couple weeks in our RLDC system, and then when we got him in general population, we got him in class as soon as we could. We fast tracked him through the program, but he didn't get through quite in the 9 months, but he has done it.
But he's done it now.
It is.
Okay.
That's what he's been
Okay.
focusing on.
And he's done well since then? He hadn't had any write-ups or anything like that?
Yes, sir, no problem. I'm looking at his approved residence plan here in front of him.
Okay, great, good. I've got no further questions. Anybody got any questions? Anything you'd like to say, Mr. Melancon? I think you're about to get granted, so if you want to say something, you can.
Thank you.
All right, I'll vote first. Based upon your finishing the sex offender treatment program and having an approved residence, my vote would be to grant, conditioned upon your following all the conditions of your sex offender treatment program, which would include any sort of registration, notification, and treatment as well. Okay, good luck to you. Ms. Wise?
Sir, my vote is to grant as well. I wish you well.
Mr. Freeman?
I concur.
Okay. Your parole has been granted, Mr. Melancon. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Warden, thank you very much. We appreciate all your help always, as we always do. The time is 1:05 and we'll be adjourned. Ed Raymond LaBoard.
Thank y'all. Have a good day.
How fitting. Do you want to know what he did? Do you want to know what he did? There is an article Richard sent me. Problem is, even though I paid for the advocate, so there won't be ads, it just never acknowledges that I paid. I'll put the link below if you want to take a look. I click it, I can see the short text, and then the ad pops up. In 2015, it came to light that it came to light what he had done when a 14-year-old girl, his victim, gave birth to twins, stillborn, in her home. He's 43 now. So he was in his late 30s. She was 14. And someone felt that an 8-year sentence, molestation of a juvenile, even though she's pregnant, 8 years, it would be fair. That would be great. That would keep society safe. That would be a just judgment. What the hell is wrong with our society? Are you, what? Why? I had to cover hearings today where someone got a life sentence. He stole $20. No, he didn't have a weapon. Another man got a life sentence because he sold $20 worth of illicit paraphernalia, drugs. But this, you impregnate a 14-year-old girl? 8 years. And guess what? You'll only serve 6 years and 9 months because we fast-tracked you through a program. You can't make it up. This system is so broken. Can you imagine a system that is designed not to protect children? You can't, because it makes no sense to the anyone who has any little bit of common sense. Yet the system gives them low risk scores. I would have loved to have seen what the risk score was for Nathaniel. I bet you it was low too. And sure, I bet you it was low for Robyn also. It's low for every single one of these. But this is why we do this. This is why there's not one penny is being made on this upload. I promise you that. Do it so we can bring to light how messed up our system is, because it's the only thing that can bring around change. And I'm not, how many people will see this? We don't know. Yeah, it's up to the algorithm gods. It could be 4,000. It could be 500,000. But every little bit, I think, will lead to some change somehow. And then if not that, if we don't want to be all in the sky hoping for something like that, at least if someone Googles either of these roaches' names, it'll pop up on Google. And maybe that way they can keep the child safe. Anyways. With that, I'll let you go.